Welcome to Bitter Reality Brewing. Yeah, I'm having all kinds of crazy fun. And yes, I do mean crazy fun. So I reached out recently to White Labs. And before I do that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely share if you're trying to get your friends to get hooked up or you want your friends to get you hooked up. But I love White Labs. I use a lot of their yeasts. I've been using their yeast for many years, probably going on about 8 years, plus or minus a little bit, but about 8 years. And yeah, I said, hey, could you hook me up for some swag so I can hook up my viewers? And the key is, and I know thousands of people watch this video and you don't know who I am, but I'm a huge karma person. Now I do know that karma doesn't always work out. Trust me, I'm not like that. I know karma doesn't work out. I just hope it does. And when I ask for things from a company, sponsor, whatever you want to call it, I don't ask for anything for myself. I don't want anything. I want to give it away. I would prefer to give it away to the viewers. It's just the way I am. It's the way I've always been. Even when I go to big events where they give away stuff, unless I want to do business with that company or unless I'm doing business with that company, I prefer not to ask for anything. I don't even want anything. Not that they shove it down my throat. That might be a different issue, but hey, it is what it is. So I reached out to White Labs and White Labs said, hey, you know, we like your videos. This is cool. We're gonna send you some swag, but by the way, what size are you? And I told them, and they sent me one specific item just for me. And I love it, it's awesome. It's keeping me warm right now. It's very cold in Florida, North Florida. I know it's a lot colder up north, but it's very cold in North Florida. I'm drinking my British Ale yeast with White Labs, British 004, amazing. When I was up at White Labs, before the winter totally took over, love this glass. It's about 12 ounces, which is great for doing sampling. Got another White Labs glass. And I bought this shirt that says beer without yeast is bittersweet, which is really kind of funny, and it is what it is, but I like it a lot. So this goes nicely with this, and it doesn't tell people they have to ask me stuff, and I get to tell them stuff. We're gonna give away some super cool stuff today. I mean, super cool, and I'll explain. This right here is super soft, very thick, and I mean thick. It is an XL, it is a White Labs hoodie, it is high quality. My son has a bunch of Nike hoodies and I'm sorry. Yeah, Nike might get mad at me, who knows, maybe they'll do a cease and desist, but Nike hoodies suck compared to this. This thing is very high quality, amazing, super thick, super soft. I wish there was feel-o-vision. It is super cool. Other items, yes, we're gonna give away 3 items. If you don't win this, which will be given away exactly or close to exact, I do have a job, you know, I do work for a living. About a week from today, I will pull a bunch of names randomly. I will give you the details on that at the end of the video or close to the end of the video or somewhere mixed in there, and you'll have to figure it out. The second person who gets pulled will win this. I know you're like, what is that? It is a White Labs yeast of your choice. You go to your local homebrew shop, you give them this, you fill out some stuff, they fill out some stuff, they get credit. You pick out whichever White Labs yeast you want. Yeah, I'm not telling you, hey, I'm giving away this yeast. No, I'm giving away any White Labs yeast. Bingo. And we have a deck of those cards. So I'll be giving out more throughout the year. And for the third and runner-up, which also that person may say, you know what, that's what I wanted. Because this would look cool in your little homebrew area or your bar or whatever you got. It's a yeast man. And if you get the yeast man who's growing another yeast man, he's literally growing, he might help you out, who knows. You get this, and this is kind of cool. You're like, okay, that's nice, whatever. You flip it over and you can open your bottles. So it's sitting there and it just looks very decorative, but it has a function. I'm a practical type person. So this entire video is not just about giving away some cool stuff. I mean, huge kudos, huge thank you to White Labs. And yes, I have many other t-shirts and many other goodies from White Labs to give away and some other companies throughout the year. And maybe some I don't even know about yet. So it is what it is. This video is about what is your favorite White Labs yeast and why, or what is the White Labs yeast you would like to use if you've never used White Labs yeast or liquid yeast before. Seems pretty simple. I'm gonna give you my overview of quite a few of their yeasts, but I'm gonna give you the top 5 that I love and why I love those yeasts. I'm also gonna give you a little list of what I call my go-to yeasts. And most of them are almost all White Labs, if not the majority are White Labs. And what's funny is one of them recently changed And it's White Lab's fault. They made me want to change to another White Lab yeast. So we're gonna hit it off right off the bat. California Ale Yeast 001. Yeah, I know everyone out there is like, yeah, I've used it. Yeah, I use it. It's actually not one of my top 5. I've used it many times. I know most people that is their go-to. That was actually the first yeast that White Labs ever sold. And it is still their most popular yeast on a weekly basis, if not daily basis. They sell a ton of California Ale Yeast 001. Great, clean yeast that does a great job at helping to push the hops up and out and keeping the malts, I won't say subdued, but under control. So one of my top 5 favorites is actually very similar. It's California Ale Yeast 5 or 051. The reason I like it is it doesn't even appear to be related, but it's got some esters going on. And those esters seem to complement the hops very nicely. And recently, White Labs released some information saying that they found that it's actually related to lager yeast, but it's been used as an ale yeast for decades. So kind of a cool little twist there. But yeah, California Ale Yeast 051, definitely one of my favorites. I've actually done 001 and 051 together, and I preferred the 051. It wasn't as clean, but I felt the flavors were, I'm not gonna say in your face, but they were kind of rounded out and smooth, but I could taste them more and smell them more. They're just a little bit more pronounced. Now, we all know English and British Ale Yeast 02 or 002, 005, 007. Yeah, they're all very nice. 007 is on the dry side. I used that in my stout last year. Was amazing, definitely enjoyed it. I like a good dry beer. I actually used the 002 recently, and I used it for a cider, not based on White Lab's recommendation, but actually based on American Home Brewers Association and what they found using ale yeast for ciders. It was in the vanilla pear cider, came out amazing. It had a nice smooth, I could taste the pear. It was dry, but not overly dry, so I had just enough hint of sweet to taste the fruit. And it did a great job. I won't say I would never thought of an ale yeast. I've thought of ale yeast, but I figured the yeasts that are recommended for ciders were recommended for a reason. I've used quite a few different cider yeasts, but honestly, 002 did an amazing job, and it will probably be my new go-to for ciders. Now, number 2 favorite, and I'm not ranking these top 5, I'm just kind of putting them in a little bucket of 5, you know what I mean? They're different types of beer. Yeah, you know it. Irish 004. I tell you, it's my go-to for anything that's Irish, whether it's a stout, a red ale. Probably my new go-to for all my British beers too. Even considering doing kind of a malty type beer, 004 is just an amazing yeast. It is definitely one of my favorites. It works really well. It gives you a nice dry beer while helping the malts and anything else going on there that's, the hops are going to come through a little. They're just not going to go crazy, but it really helps the malts to stand out massively and just so smooth, so good. Just really, really nice. Nothing harsh in any shape, size, or form. Just a great, great yeast. Next one, this one might catch you off guard. London Ale Yeast 013. That is actually one of my top 5s. I love it for a good American stout. I don't use it for anything British or Irish or anything European even, but American stouts and American IPAs or even porters. Now the IPAs, I'm not going to usually use it for something that's really high on the ABV. Once I get up over 7 something, I'm probably going to look for something different. But in the mid grade, it's supposed to give a hint of oak, and that oak helps to keep things nice and smooth and well-rounded. I don't notice it in all the beers I use it in, but it is just a nice, very nice yeast to use, and it works really well, and I like it a lot. So I haven't actually tried the hazy London Ale one yet, but the just London Ale 013, yeah. Now this is one of my go-tos. It's not so much my favorites. It's my favorite only because it's a go-to, so it's not in that 5 I'm talking about. Is Dusseldorf Alt Ale. I forget the number, but it's my favorite and my go-to for Altbier. If I'm making an Altbier, and if you haven't had an Altbier, you definitely need to try it, especially if you like malts and hops, because an Altbier is considered a perfectly balanced beer to some degree or by some people. It's a little dark, it's got the nice malts, but it also has a little hops, and the hops come through without being overbearing. So it's a really, really good beer, just rounded out. And I have tried several other beer recommended yeasts, and I'm just not into them. They're just not Dusseldorf Alt Ale from White Labs. The next one is Melbourne, however you want to say it, Ale 059. This is really, really nice for pale ales, American IPAs, which aren't real high on the ABV, probably between the 5 and maybe getting close to the 7%. It's just a really, really great ale yeast. From what I remember, it had some mild esters. It still let some of the malts shine through. Just a nice, sessionable IPA type style or pale ale type beer. Melbourne ale yeast is a really good go-to. I used it for some sort of historic beer, and I don't even remember, it was something like Tooth or something Tooth, but it came out okay. So another go-to, 300. Yes, White Labs 300 for Hefeweizens. Yeah, that's no longer my go-to, and it's White Labs' fault. 380 might be better in my opinion. I like a little bit more of that spice. I used to like the banana. I prefer a little spice, clove, you know what I mean. 380 will now be my new go-to. It's your fault, White Labs. That, you know, when I did the comparison, when you brewed them, that 380 was amazing. Now for wits, I've tried several different ones. There is a dry one out there that's pretty nice, but White Labs 400. White Labs 400 for my wits, go-to. 080 for cream ales, go-to. 530, Belgian, Abbey Ale style. Yes, go-to for my singles, my triples. I can't remember if I've done it for a Debel, but definitely my singles and triples, definitely 530 is a go-to. Now, this is my 4th out of 5, top 5, 550. 550 Belgian ale yeast. And I may not use it the way you're thinking, but I love 550 for Belgian IPAs because it's got a lot going on, but nothing is sticking out. It's not over the top, you know what I mean? It's very well rounded with all kinds of esters and just, you get the smells and the, you know, a little spice, a little fruit, everything's kind of going on. But for Belgian IPAs and Belgian stouts, I did a clone one time of black from Allagash, and I used 550 and I really enjoyed it. It wasn't a black from Allagash, but it was still a really good stout. And Saisons. It's gonna be number 5 out of the top 5. I'm gonna explain this one though. 565, 566, and 568. 565 is a spicy pepper type Saison yeast. 566 is more fruit forward. 568 is a blend of both 565 and 566 from my understanding. 565 is in my top 5. The reason is I didn't really care for Saisons when I first started trying Saisons. It just wasn't my thing. Pilsner, some spice, or maybe some fruit. Wasn't impressed. Then I've decided one time somebody gave me a 565 to try. Yeah, they gave it to me. It was out of date. I made a little starter and it came out just great. Oh my gosh. If you've never had a Saison with a little bit of fruit and some spice, it is amazing. And I mean, you can go 565, just make a nice Pilsner, put some lemon zest in there. You're gonna have kind of a lemon pepper. I know it sounds a little weird. It's actually the first Saison I ever tried from Sam Adams of all people. And I was like, wow, this is actually good. And I thought I would hate it, but it was so good. Well, I do the Belgian ginger, or Saison 565 with my raspberry ginger. And I've done other fruits. For some reason, that little bit of fruit kind of makes you think a little hint of sweet and some fruit. And then you add that 565 spice and it just comes out amazing on top of that nice clean Pilsner. Yeah, your foundation, your little spice, a little fruit, you see where I'm going. It's an amazing beer. Now, beyond ale and lager yeast, because I have not used any of the lager yeast from White Labs, I don't have the fermentation capabilities technically, and will in the near future, hopefully by the end of this year. But they make so much more. Now, we all know they are getting into the Vikes and they've got the sours, or AKA bugs, but they make cider yeast, they make wine yeast, they make champagne. Yeah, it kind of goes without saying when you're making wine yeast. Sherry, I'm not a big sherry fan, but they make yeast for sherry. Meads, and distillation. And distillation I did note. I didn't know so much about the meads, but distillation, vodka, whiskey, and things like that. So how do I win the super cool, ultra thick, super soft White Labs hoodie? Do I really want to tell you how to win it? Yes, I do. Very easy. Between that, a free White Lab yeast, Yeast Man, and his bottle opener. It's gonna be so easy. If you've never used White Labs yeast before, somewhere in the comments, and you gotta put the word White Labs, 2 separate words, or you will not be found. White Labs. Tell me what yeast you would like to use and why. If you've used White Labs yeast, I wanna know what your favorite White Labs yeast is and why. Why is it your favorite? I mean, explain it, sell it to me. Tell me why it is your favorite yeast and why it's the one that you like using and you use whenever you brew that type of beer or maybe those styles of beer. I wanna know because there are definitely White Labs yeasts out there that I've never used. And approximately, I won't say exactly, but at least 7 days, if you were to count it by the hour, sometime right after that, I will pull 3 names, US only, I'm sorry, Canada and Mexico. I might try to figure out what the shipping will be. I did ship something to Netherlands recently and it wasn't too bad, but it was a book, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, down below, somewhere in the comments, a little over exactly, somewhere, you know, I work for a living, 7 days from now, I will randomly pull 3 names. The first person will get the amazing hoodie and hopefully we'll be able to use it a few more times this year before, you know, it starts warming up. I know some places don't get really warm until after April, which is kind of crazy. But, you know, we all know in March, there's always some crazy freeze somewhere. Number 2, we'll get a free White Labs yeast card, coupon, whatever you want to call it, for your redemption at your local homebrew shop. You got to fill some out at your local homebrew shop and it's got some special things on it. I'm covering a serial number, so you can't start manufacturing these like fake dollar bills. But the second person will get this, and I've got a deck of those throughout the year with some other t-shirts and other cool things. And the third person will get a nice helper for brew day called the Yeast Man with the bottle opener. Kind of hides out as just a cool knick-knack until you flip it over and realize that you can pop bottles open with it. But down below, go in the comments, go crazy, let me know. The word White Labs has to be 2 words, not 1. It is 2 words. I put it together sometimes, but it's 2 words. And either the yeast you want to try, why, because you've never used one, or your favorite White Labs yeast and why. I'm enjoying White Lab 004 and my Irish ale yeast, the red rye, the toasted caraway. Oh, freaking amazing. Another huge thank you again out to White Labs. Thank you very, very much. And I'm dying to go to Asheville and just spend a week hanging out in White Labs and try like every beer you got on tap. That's why I need to be there for a full week. I can't do all those in a single day or even 2 days probably. So cheers. Thank you again for joining us here at Bitter Reality Brewing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please, please share. Let your friends know they could get hooked up and check it out. If you haven't been to Asheville, oh my God, you gotta go. White Labs, don't even think of them as a yeast company. Think of them as a brewery. They've got food, they've got everything, and they've got some great beers on tap. Thank you again.